Okay, go ahead, Charlie.
We'll go ahead and start our September 10th, 2025 Board of Adjustment meeting. We'll call that to order and start with our agenda and minutes from last month. Do we?
I move to approve the minutes as provided.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Keith and Pam Altringer, 2025-14V. Eva.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a variance request from the Cook County Zoning Ordinance, Section 4.08C, to place an accessory structure at a reduced road setback, 38 feet from centerline or 4.5 feet from the right-of-way, where a minimum of 50 feet from centerline is required or 35 feet from right-of-way is required, whichever is greater, located at 49 Wolf Point Trail. The applicant's property, there we go, here's my slides. The applicant's property includes 2.61 acres with approximately 367 feet of Tucker Lake shoreline. The parcel is contained primarily within the Lakeshore Residential Zone District. Zoning lot size requirements for newly created lots along the natural environment lake must be 2 acres in size and 200 feet wide, and Tucker Lake is classified as a natural environment lake. For general project description, the applicants, Keith and Pam Altringer, are requesting relief from the road setback requirements to allow a garage to be placed on their property at 49 Wolf Point Trail. The garage is proposed to be a 30 by 30 garage with 2-foot eaves measuring approximately 21 feet tall at the peak. For ordinance citation, there's 2 ordinance clarifications applicable to ordinance citations I'd like to take a moment to clarify. For Lakeshore Residential, the Cook County Zoning Ordinance outlines road setback requirements per each zone district. Staff have identified that the Lakeshore Residential Zone District extends further from the lake than is displayed on the zoning map due to the presence of wetlands along the lakeshore. The Cook County Zoning Ordinance, Section 4.03, defines the Lakeshore Residential Zone District as follows. In the Lakeshore Residential Zone District, the zone district boundary shall extend 300 feet back from the shoreline of each lake, river, or stream designated in Appendix I of attached herein and made a part thereof. The shoreline of Tucker Lake is technically the ordinary high water level, which is defined as follows. The ordinary high water level, a reference to the boundary of public waters and wetlands, which is determined as the margin where aquatic vegetation changes to terrestrial vegetation, as caused by the highest water level, which has been maintained for a sufficient length of time to leave evidence on the landscape. The level of water at this margin is the ordinary high water elevation. Other terms that have equal measure are shoreline. Essentially, the wetland bog along the lake is aquatic vegetation and therefore is still below the ordinary high water level. In these types of landscapes, staff begin measuring the structure setback from Tucker Lake, where the wetland boundary transitions to upland. Using the aerial photo in Figure 1, the tree line can be used as a good indicator to begin the measurement to determine the 300-foot Lakeshore Residential Zone District. Staff did confer with the Minnesota DNR area hydrologist on this interpretation with Figure 1, and they agreed as follows. Based on the guidelines for OHWL determinations, I would agree that the blue line appears to be an accurate OHWL determination based on desktop review. Primary features of OHWL determination in water basins and wetlands are tree evidence, water-formed evidence, and other vegetative evidence. The tree evidence is very apparent on the satellite imagery. So what this picture is trying to show is that the wetlands along the lake are still technically lake, and we do begin the lake setback where the wetlands meet the land, and staff just drew a blue line trying to roughly approximate where that boundary could be, and then kind of figuring out what the length between that wetland upland boundary is inland is still within 300 feet. All of this is to say that I believe the whole property where this garage proposed location is zoned Lakeshore Residential. So that's the setback that we'll be reviewing this by, is the structure setbacks from roads in the Lakeshore Residential Zone District. So that was a rabbit hole to try to clarify there, so I appreciate you following along with me. Next up, for the road setback, this variance requesting relief from structure setback requirements from Wolf Point Trail. As noted in one of the written comment letters, staff did identify the incorrect alternate setback in the public notices. We referred to the centerline setback. And instead, we should have applied the right-of-way setback, which is more restrictive in this specific location. Staff would apply the right-of-way setback where the platted line begins, because the road easement area is technically what would be the right-of-way, which is on the other side of the line. So as you can see in this drawing, the 35 feet from the property line is more restrictive than the 50 feet from the center line. So it's, I believe, 4.5 feet from right-of-way should be how we're perceiving how much variance relief is being requested here. These setbacks are still from the same section of the zoning ordinance, but the Board of Adjustment should consider the right-of-way setback as the applicable one for the purpose of reviewing the variance. The variance application does clarify that the setback relief for the garage is 4.5 feet from the property line or right-of-way, where the ordinance requires a setback of 35 feet from right-of-way. In your packets on page 10 of the packet are a couple of photos. Figure 3, which is the one in the lower right hand here, is looking down Wolf Point Trail at a property across the road, which has a garage visible from the road. And then in the figure in the left-hand side on your screen, I tried to just roughly demonstrate where that garage is proposed to be placed as you come around Wolf Point Trail from the road with the driveway entrance there. Please note that is not to scale. All right, for background, the property is within the Wolf Point plat. The preliminary plat was approved in July of 1991. Developments receiving preliminary plat approval before January 1st, 1992, but after July 1 of 1986, so during that time period, were exempted from most aspects of the Wetland Conservation Act to the extent that their impact was demonstrated on the plat. As such, these lots were created without considering the limitations created by wetlands and slopes for conforming development options. The plat file does not reference much detail regarding the topography, and there was no detail regarding the buildable area per lot created. The Altringers have owned this property since 1997, and it is their primary residence. The parcel has a primary dwelling, a septic tank and drain field, and a couple of sheds. There is currently no garage on the property. The property is located on the inside bend of the private platted Wolf Point Trail. The property owners live on the property year-round and are homesteaded here. So on the plat map there, this property is in the red circle, number 1, on that inside bend on the east side of the lake. For site conditions and considerations, for septic, the property is served by a septic system. The septic tank is located south of the house on the trench, and a trench drain field is located on the east side of the house between the house and the road. There is a photo in your packet that's from the septic permit. There has not been a compliance inspection for the septic system in recent years, so a new inspection and certificate of compliance will be required before the issuance of a land use permit if the variance is approved. For impervious surface coverage, the proposed addition does meet the impervious surface requirements. For wetlands, the map that you have on the screen right now is the National Wetland Inventory Layer, which is a reference data set that often indicates where wetlands may be. We don't use that as a regulatory tool. It's just a reference data set. But wetlands are a considerable presence in the lower topographic areas of this parcel. For slope, the parcel does contain steep slopes of 25%, which are an important consideration when evaluating practical difficulties related to the variance request. The portion of the parcel not constrained by wetlands or steep slopes is primarily located near the road along the inside bend. There may be a small flat area at the base of the 25% slope before the upland transitions to wetland. However, this location lies within the 150-foot structure setback from Tucker Lake. As a reminder, because Tucker Lake is a natural environment lake, the structure setback is greater of 150 feet from the shoreline. Steep slopes are defined in the Cook County Zoning Ordinance as follows. Lands having an average slope of 12% or more as measured over a horizontal distance of 50 feet or more that are not bluffs. The Cook County Shoreland section of the zoning ordinance identifies shoreland alterations restrictions, which do identify steep slopes having additional restrictions. So essentially, it's definitely not preferred to do grade fill activities on steep slopes, especially if you can avoid it where possible. There we have that's essentially showing where that 25% 50-foot segment was found further away from the road as a potential alternative location. This is a picture from the bottom of the hill looking up towards where the garage would be. You can see the house was built on a hillside, as some of the public comment letters do indicate. And this is as you enter the driveway. The garage is proposed to be on the left side where that clearing is, and the house is over on the right. And if you would look directly to the right here, as you enter the property, that's where the drain field is. Drain field. And again, at the bottom of that hill, looking up, the septic tank is located downhill of the house, and the garage would be looking straight up from that. For shoreline, this parcel is located in the east end of a bay on Tucker Lake. Tucker Lake is a natural environment lake with a structure setback of 150 feet, so it is particularly important that adequate vegetative screening exists. The Minnesota DNR classifies lakes and rivers. In this case, natural environment lakes are described as follows. Generally small, often shallow lakes with limited capacities for assimilating the impacts of development and recreational use. They often have adjacent lands with substantial constraints for development, such as a high water table, exposed bedrock, or unsuitable soils. These lakes, particularly in rural areas, usually do not have much existing development or recreational use. This parcel is heavily forested, and a good amount of tree cover provides vegetative screening from the lake and dock. There is a viewing corridor from the dwelling to the lake. However, it does not seem as though the cabin will be easily visible from the bay of Tucker Lake. I should have said garage. The cabin is visible, but I intend to say garage location. My apologies. For public noticing, the application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald on August 29th, 2025. 10 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners, as well as the county departments and the DNR hydrologist. The public notice area is on the screen there. To that public notice, we received 9 written comments from property owners. Wayne and Cynthia Dossier expressed concern related to the variance due to the size of the garage and the distance from the road. They identified the visibility of the garage from the road and noted that the placement is along the inside bend. Jeff Ayers, 52 Wolf Point Trail, was opposed to the request. He cited concerns about safety hazards from placing the garage too close to the road on a curve, negative impacts on the views of Tucker Lake, and failure to follow the Wolf Point Association procedures. They argued that the applicants could build a garage elsewhere on their lot without a variance, and that economic considerations alone do not meet the legal standard for practical difficulties. The comments expressed that the application should have included more technical information. Paul Groban at 30 Wolf Point Trail supported the request with a reduced road setback for a garage. Peter and Amy James at 128 Wolf Point Trail supported the request, identifying that living year-round in this location requires more storage and space than seasonal cabins or vacation rental homes. Agreed that the applicant has the slope for the property, does not provide viable options, and explains that they drive past the property regularly and would prefer to see a garage than a yard of equipment, trailers, and sheds. Tyson Smith, on behalf of Carl Johansson, identifies that the incorrect setback was being applied in the variance notice and road setback should apply to the 35-foot right-of-way setback. States that the large garage does not fit the character of other properties in the area, and typically vegetation within the setback area provides visual screening. Expresses the variance is driven by financial concerns and the applicants haven't identified non-economic considerations for practical difficulties. States that buildable locations exist that are not flat, such as a house, and that Cook County contractors are prepared to build sites on hillsides. Also identifies the HOA process with the Architectural Committee. Bob and Ann Carrick at 48 Wolf Point Trail support the variance request, explains that they are neighbors immediately across the road from the subject property. Bob and Ruth Schuchart at 28 Black Spruce Trail. They're okay with building a garage, but feel the structure should be smaller to fit into the setback regulations. Express concern that if the structure is moved away from the road, it would be more easily visible to the lake. Identify the Wolf Point Architectural Committee and Board will also review this process for the request. Bill and Sandy Struve understand the need for a garage, ask if the garage will hinder the view of the road along the curve and if it will impact snow removal. Matt and Jamie Struve concern with the reduced setback from the road if it will affect road usage, such as providing enough clearance for larger trucks, such as logging trucks near the inside bend of the road. Concern with potential impacts to snow removal and identify the HOA processes. For staff consideration for facts and findings, as you know, we have to review variances based off of the criteria outlined in the zoning ordinance. With this, the first question, the variance is consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive land use guide plan and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Cook County Zoning Ordinance and other Cook County official controls. We identified that the zoning ordinance requires a setback of 35 feet from the right-of-way in the Lakeshore Residential Zone District, and the applicant is proposing to place the structure 4.5 feet from the right-of-way.
Can I ask a quick question? Is that a 4.5-foot encroachment in the right-of-way?
Nope, that's 4.5 feet from the right-of-way.
Okay.
So it's 25.5 feet into the setback from the right-of-way.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you for giving me a break of reading. That was nice. I'll take questions along the way. The parcel is within, and then the road has a 50-foot road easement as a part of the platted road. The parcel is within the Wolf Point plat, a plat which included 16 lots and 2 outlots. The plat creation and approval coincided with the rollout of the State Wetland Conservation Act, so the platted parcels were created with exemption to the wetland regulations. And then I referred to a few different land use goals that we have outlined in the Cook County Land Use Guide Plan. For the second variance question, the proposed use of the property is allowed in the land use district in which the property is located. The platted parcel is zoned lakeshore residential and has water frontage to Tucker Lake, a natural environment lake. The lot is 2.61 acres with approximately 367 feet of Tucker Lake shoreline. Residential garages are permitted in this zone district. Third question, the property owner is proposing the use of the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the Cook County Zoning Ordinance. The property owner has requested a 30 by 30 garage totaling less than 1,000 square feet, which is a permitted use within the LSR zone district. The Wolf Point plat includes a 50-foot dedicated road easement. The proposed garage would be located 4.5 feet from the platted easement or right-of-way, representing an encroachment of 30.5 into the standard right-of-way. Right, because it's 35 feet from right-of-way.
Okay.
Wolf Point Road is a dead-end road primarily used by the property owners within the plat. The narrow road corridor and road design naturally limit vehicle speeds. Additionally, the proposed building site is located on an inside bend of the road, which further reduces potential traffic impacts and enhances safety. Given these conditions, the proposed garage placement is reasonable as it minimizes impacts on public safety and road use while allowing the property owners to exercise a permitted use of a property. For the next question, the property owner has established that a practical difficulty involved is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. The parcel has limited areas for suitable conforming development due to multiple environmental and regulatory constraints. For the lake setback, the property is adjacent to a DNR designated natural environment lake requiring a 150-foot structure setback from the OHWL. The National Wetland Inventory data indicates significant wetlands present in the lower topographic areas of the parcel. The parcel is situated on the inside bend of a platted dead-end road, which carries a 35-foot right-of-way setback. And significant steep slopes exist within the shoreland where development is typically restricted to minimize erosion, nutrient runoff, preserve shoreline aesthetics, maintain scenic views, prevent bank slumping, and protect fish and wildlife habitat consistent with the Cook County Zoning Ordinance shoreline alteration regulations. Due to these overlapping constraints, the parcel has very limited footprint available for development without encroaching into regulatory areas, creating a practical difficulty for placing structures in compliance with the ordinance. Approving the variance maintain the essential character of the locality. The property is within a residential plat. The addition of a residential garage fits the residential use of the area and provides indoor storage space as preferable to storage items outdoors. And number 2, visible from this property is another neighboring property which has a garage and house easily visible from the road. The property owner has established that a practical difficulty involves more than economic considerations alone. To meet the road setback, the garage would need to be moved closer to the lake, which is a steep slope and has restrictions for development and vegetative removal along steep slopes for the purposes to protect the lake. And additionally, the 150-foot natural environment lake setback would limit how far away from the lake the garage can be placed. For staff recommendations for consideration, staff concur with the applicant that there are very limited conforming development sites on this platted lot. The early 1990s plat file does not include details showing that the development of this lot considered wetlands, slope, or road setback in relation to potential building sites. For roadway considerations, Wolf Point Trail is maintained year-round. Public comments question whether a reduced setback could impact snow removal. The property owner contacted the snowplow operator who indicated that the proposed garage location would not present a problem. Quote, "I don't see that there'd be an issue at all. I plow much tighter spaces than the curve/hill portion of the road, and as long as there's still trees between your garage and the road, I'll hardly even notice." With a 50-foot road easement for the platted road, staff believe there's adequate space for road maintenance without encroaching into private property. Written comments also express concern about road function and safety, particularly for larger vehicles such as firewood delivery trucks and recreational trailers negotiating the curve. Given the proposed structure's 38-foot setback from the road center line and the presence of trees between the garage and the road, staff finds it unlikely that a truck access or snow removal would be impeded. Staff notes that the garage is on the inside bend of the flat road segment where risks of vehicle runoff are lower, though it may contribute to reduced sight distance in the combination with the existing trees. HOA considerations. This parcel is within a platted community with an active HOA. Some comments question whether the HOA Architectural Committee and Board should review the project before county action. From a variance processing standpoint, the HOA review is a private matter and not a part of the county's variance process. HOAs may adopt standards that are more restrictive than county regulations, but they cannot be less restrictive or replace the county's review authority. While staff recognizes these community concerns, they are outside the scope of the county variance review. Site suitability and visual character. After reviewing the property's characteristics, staff believe the proposed garage location is generally the most suitable to protect the lake and maintain shoreline character. Road setbacks are typically applied for public safety reasons, such as preventing conflicts where structures are placed along steep slopes or outside road bends. In this case, the garage is proposed on the inside bend of a flat area of the road. There may be conforming building locations further from the road that meet the right-of-way setback. However, this area is along the steep slope and likely limited by the 150-foot natural environment shoreline setback. Identifying a feasible alternative location would require a formal survey due to the complexity of the OHWL determination. Locating the garage in that area would also involve greater slope alteration, which staff find less desirable from a shoreline protection standpoint. Placing the garage in a location that's not a steep slope and meeting the right-of-way setback would most likely not meet the 150-foot Tucker Lake setback. Visual impacts were raised by public comments. Staff find that compared to alternatives closer to the lake, the proposed site is better positioned to maintain shoreline aesthetics. Additionally, other private properties have development visible from the road, including a residential property across the road from this lot. For garage size, one consideration for discussion is the proposed garage size. The garage is a single-story garage with 10-foot sidewalls, but a 30 by 30 is larger than conventional one or two vehicle garages. Reducing the footprint could address some neighbor concerns, improve visual compatibility with the area, and provide additional setback from the road. If approved, staff recommend the following conditions. Number one, the property shall comply with Minnesota Rule 7080, the Cook County septic requirements. Prior to the issuance of the land use permit, a septic inspection is required. If the septic inspection fails, the new septic permit must be issued before the land use permit can be issued. Number two, the garage shall be constructed in accordance with the dimensional design details included with the variance application and shall not exceed 21 feet. And no part of the proposed structure shall be located closer than 38 feet from the center line of Wolf Point Trail. The garage shall be used for personal residential storage only and not for commercial purposes or separate dwelling space. An amendment to the variance approval is required to add living quarters to the garage to evaluate the intensified use of the structure. And of course, all of that is before you hold the public hearing, so all up to be modified and amended.
Thank you, Neva. At this point, I'd ask the applicant if they'd like to come forward and add anything else. Please come to the mic and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Board of Adjustment members. I'm Pam Altringer. My last name is spelled capital A-L-T-R-I-N-G-R. And along with my spouse, Keith Altringer, we are seeking approval for a variance to build a garage at our home where we live at 49 Wolf Point Trail in the Wolf Point Association of the Wolf Point Plat. We've been active community members since 1997. We understand civic duty and participate and support functions of our communities. We contacted staff from Cook County Landing and Zoning to get information on building an additional structure on our property. It has setbacks specified in Cook County ordinances. We felt it was most appropriate to do the county process first, then do our HOA, as others in the association have done in the past. We are very familiar with the practices in our HOA. I am currently the serving secretary. Since submitting the variance application, we began reaching out to the Architectural Review Committee of the Wolf Point Association. After addressing their questions, showing them pictures, asking them to come conduct site visits, the committee reviewed the aspects of our building plan and included the design, the location, the appearance, and the use. I'm pleased to share that the Architectural Review Committee has approved of our building plan with their decision pending final variance approval. They affirm that our proposed garage follows Architectural Review Committee guidelines and is consistent with the garage sizes in the Wolf Point Association development. This approval reinforces that our project aligns with the character of the community and maintains the harmonious relationship between structures. Some of our neighbors expressed concerns about the road maintenance, log delivery, and snow removal. I took pictures and texted a few of those who had concerns, and after viewing them, they had no further objections. I also contacted Dave Tuttle, who does our road maintenance. I contacted Dean Berglund, who delivers our firewood and uses a logging trailer and a big truck, and Derek Hoffelt, who does our snow plowing. All confirmed with me that our building's location would not interfere with their work or access to the area. The 30 by 30 building that we are proposing is designed to function as a garage for us who are full-time residents for our 2 full-size vehicles, with additional storage above and shelving along the walls. We need to get the tools and equipment out of our living area. We initially considered a roof with a 12 by 12 pitch, so we could add solar panels and the snow load would get off our roof easily. But upon considering that it would be quite tall, we decided we would go with a 10-12 roof. But then when I talked to the engineer today, he said, I think it's actually an 8-12 roof. And we kind of would like to keep a 12-12 or a 10-12, but that's something that needs to be decided by you. The garage's color and materials will closely match those of our home and neighboring structures, maintaining the cohesive visual character of our street. By keeping the height and appearance similar to other buildings in our area, we avoid obstructing views or disrupting the established landscape. We believe this approach not only respects the neighborhood's aesthetics, but also adds value by using thoughtful design choices that complement and enhance our community rather than creating an eyesore. By placing the garage at the proposed location, we minimize tree removal and preserve natural erosion controls. Our possible garage locations, other than what we have, would require removing our mature trees and increasing runoff into the lake, negatively impacting both the environment and our neighborhood aesthetics. Our approach helps protect local wildlife habitats and the water quality more effectively than alternative sites closer to the lake. We are working to meet all the challenges of our property, including the county setbacks that Neva has expressed in her presentation. The narrow shape of our lot, its proximity to the road, and the nearby protected wetlands makes it nearly impossible for us to build anything without a variance. Due to these restrictions and limiting factors, we are requesting this variance. Thank you for considering our request for the variance. I appreciate all of your time and what you do to bring to this discussion. And I hope that you will approve our proposal to support both of our needs and the environmental stewardship that it allows. Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open to the public for comments. Anyone who wishes to speak on this application, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Carrick, Robert Carrick. I live at 48 Wolf Point Trail, so right across the road from Pam and Keith. And I'm here to support the Altringers and the request for a variance for all the facts that have already been stated. I won't bore you with all of those, but I will say that they are very limited in their property. All the trees that you saw in the pictures from the road, they planted because the blowdown of 99 wiped out everything they had. Beautiful red pines. But that's why everything looks about the same, because they planted them there. So they've been very respectful of the environment in that respect as well. The curve of the road, I can't overstate it. It is not dramatic. It is smooth. The placement of their garage will not impact any traffic on the road or snow plowing or Mr. Berglund's delivering of firewood, or if there was an emergency, any kind of emergency vehicle required to come down the road. It's not even close to the road. Our garage, because I've heard question about a 30 by 30 garage. My garage across the street is 36 by 34. I use every inch of that. And if anybody who lives up here understands, you need the capacity for what you plan for and what you haven't planned for. And they have one chance to build a garage. And so it's got to be adequate to meet their needs. So with that said, I want you to know that my wife, Ann, and I fully support their request for a variance and hope that it gets granted. Any questions of me?
None at this time, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Jane Johnson. I live at 52 Black Spruce Trail, and I did not have the opportunity to provide written comments. So I would just like to add, I'm a permanent resident and member of the Wolf Point Association. We're part of the plat that did not receive notices, so I got the notice too late or was made aware of it too late. And so I just wanted to state that I was going to say a lot of things that have already been said about the topography and wetlands and need for variances. I think variances have been given in the past for the same reasons that the Altringers are asking for theirs, because of the wetlands and the topography and the limited opportunities for spaces to build. And in terms of the size of the garage, we also have a garage that's bigger than their proposed garage. So while you think of what a normal sized standard garage is, it's not exactly as normal in an area like that. So the garage that's being proposed by the Altringers is really a fairly standard garage and would fit in with the area. So with that, I and my husband, Richard Johnson, fully support the Altringers and their request to get the variance and build this garage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Abraham. I have a lake home at 124 Wolf Point Trail. My husband Stu and I have owned that. We bought the property in '98 and built in '99. We've been neighbors of the Altringers for a long time. We also didn't get the notice, and when we submitted our comments, Neva informed me that we'd missed the deadline. So apologies for missing the deadline. From our perspective, the proposed garage variance request is reasonable, as the Altringers are full-time residents in Grand Marais. They are among the most responsible neighbors whose development of their property has always been thoughtful, appropriate, and comparable in scale, environmentally sound, and in good taste. We have seen the proposed site, the only building site really possible on their property, and the plans for construction. Although some may deem the structure is too close to the road, we understand that they have few building options. We were told the structure and its proximity to the road would not impede slow plowing, road maintenance, or log delivery. Further, the property site has existing trees that maintain the natural environment, which was pointed out, they planted all those trees. These trees protect the view, and within a few years will add additional coverage. We are in favor of the requested variance for the Altringers and hope that the approval will be granted. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Tyson Smith, 1710 West Highway 61, and I'm the attorney for Carl Johansson. Carl would be here instead of me, but he's in the Quetico, so you get me instead. He asked me to simply underscore his primary concern, or one of them, which is the association review process. Architectural Review Committee approval notwithstanding, I think the number of written comments in opposition is a good indication of the robust discussion that is beginning to occur in the association on that matter. He suggests and asks that you consider postponing this decision until that process is complete. If the association approves as designed, that should eliminate much of the concern by many of the members who talk about that process. If the request is modified, that would save everyone the work of doing this all over again. So that's all I have to submit for your additional consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. briefly, please.
I've also participated in roles on the Wolf Point Association Board over the years. Currently, I'm the lead on the Architecture Committee, and we don't see where any processes were not followed. There's a 30-day turnaround, now to 10 days, once a request is placed, and with variance hearings like this scheduled weeks out, it doesn't make sense to come to us necessarily before a variance is approved. They did come to us before this meeting, obviously. We're able to share all their plans, but there was no egregious miscalculation with the way our HOA runs the Architecture Committee.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Hearing none, we'll close to the public and discuss it as a board.
A couple of quick questions. One is, what is the max building height that would impose them if they wanted that 12-12 pitch? 10-foot walls, that's going to bring them up to about 25 feet?
I am not skilled at coming up with that number at the top of my head. So I'm not going to speak to that.
12 feet in, it's 15 feet. You're going to go 12 up, you're going to go another 3 feet. You're going to go up another 3 feet, so it's 15 feet.
Yeah, it'd be 25 feet.
25, yeah.
And my 1212 is at 24, and it met R1 requirements.
Yeah, 35 feet is the maximum
Yeah.
structure height
Okay.
allowed, but the variance would be for a specific structure size, so you can kind of say that it can't be 35, you know, you kind of want to set a max for what height of allowance you would grant this structure. To whatever degree you feel comfortable with those different roof pitch options.
Okay. Cool. Well, we're going to let their engineer decide that.
Yeah.
We're not going to start trying to dictate how they build their building. It's not for us to jump into. But the point being is, as you pointed, is like we can say no more than 28 feet
Mhm.
kind of a thing. And
Yep.
then they have flexibility to get the pad and do other things if they have to do that. The other thing I would mention, just as I was listening to particularly staff comments about slopes, roads, wetland encroachments, protecting a lake, an environmental lake, you know, in the past, you know, not that we're bound to do that, but in our considerations in the past, we've always been more willing to go towards the road than towards the lake. And as I look at that land, with those hills going right down into the wetlands, I wouldn't see any reason we would ever want to really ask them to move closer to that slope and create more risk there and more movement of fill, right? So just going to create more opportunities for it. I just think that's in keeping with it. And I also take staff's consideration for the fact that HOA processes is a contractual agreement between homeowners. It's not ours.
Mhm.
So appreciate the input on that, but it's one of those things we have to cognizant of, understand, but we don't have any control over that. So that answers my questions and my observations.
Yeah, I would concur with a lot of that. I think, you know, all things being equal, we're often deferential to the lake, and here I think the case is even stronger. The practical difficulty is pretty clear to me, given the slope. We want to protect that, and it makes sense to put it closer. I think the road concerns are obviously very valid and should be considered, but it's a low-traffic road, and I don't think we're not getting further into the road right away than the vegetation already is, so it's not terribly concerning to me.
And I would also commend the applicants on their engagement with those stakeholders in terms of wood hauling, plowing, road maintenance.
Yeah, well done.
Neighbors, yep, all of that.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I have one question and some comments. To Neva, we approve a variance, they conceivably can reduce their encroachment and reduce their building size, but they can't make either of them bigger, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So they could place it, instead of 4.5 feet from the right-of-way, they could place it 6 feet from the right-of-way,
Okay,
move it further,
okay.
as long as they're not encroaching into another
Okay.
setback.
All right. Well, Mr. Chair, I actually was out on site Monday, and many of the things that Neva said and Brad said, you know, slopes, trees, natural areas, everything really restricts where this can happen on the site. And what I saw as I walked around and looked at it and talked to Pam about kind of their decision process, it makes sense to me, especially, given garages are permitted use. What we're really worried about here is just what are we going to allow to happen on the encroachment of that road? And I agree with Paul, it's a really low-volume road. There's only four property owners upstream on that road, so the amount of traffic is fairly small, and given what we've heard about the providers of services not having an issue, it makes sense to me.
I believe I generally agree with what you guys have all commented on, and to that, I would say, are we comfortable adopting staff's findings of fact? Do you want to address anything there?
I would be comfortable with the findings of fact, yes.
I would agree.
Yep, and I agree. And then where are you going to go next to the?
Just that if we're all comfortable with that, with adopting staff's findings of facts, then I'm open for a motion if we're ready for that.
The thing I would add to it is,
Do we want to, the height? Do we want to address that?
variance application shall not exceed the height of, right now it says 21 feet. I would recommend we change that to 28 feet. It's 7 feet under the
Give them
max.
that latitude
Yep.
if they want to do a 12-12.
Well, it's up to them and their engineer, but,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we give them the latitude so that they can design as appropriate.
Not exceed 28 feet. All right. And with that, look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the variance with the conditions that staff has recommended.
And our amendment of
And our
condition
amendment of
two.
building height, maximum building height, correct.
I'll second.
Motion is
Mr.
second.
Chair, before you pass that motion, I kind of want to ask our Assistant County Attorney a question on that. So the variance application was for a structure to be 21 feet tall, and you're allowing a greater variance than we technically noticed as a part of the request. And so I would like to make sure that she's okay with that you're granting something more than what the applicant asked for.
That should be fine as long as it's in compliance with the land use as it's zoned.
Okay,
So, and it sounds like there's latitude in
Okay.
that, so.
sounds good. Cool.
As amended, then you do just change the record, so you're adopting staff recommendations and adding in an additional height limit.
Okay, sounds
Per
good.
the board, so.
Great. Thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to ruin your momentum there. Just want to double check.
I think I remember where I'm at.
It's great to get it cleared right now.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? With that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Variance carries. Passes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.